Hello. Ooh. My name is Debbie Lucas. I'm a dietitian here at CWP. So thank you for joining us, those online and those in the room. And those in the room, if you haven't gone to get some carrot salad, go get some. And tell me what you think, because like you know, I always make a few mistakes. And I did. Okay. Sodium today. It's pretty rare that I make something here that someone will always say, it needs a little salt. And I'm sure you've experienced that too, but we're all trying not to have as much salt. So today we're going to talk about why we don't want to have too much salt, what it'll do to us, and maybe how we can get into a little more low sodium way of thinking. Who here really tries to watch your salt? I do too. What if it's something you really, really want? Chips. Oh, okay. That's a good example. Chips. Okay. That's a good one. Okay. We do have a chip bag here. So excellent. What else do you really love that you know is high in sodium? Peanut salted. Oh, so you like nuts that are salted. Well, I don't. You don't. Well, okay. Yeah. I started getting raw too. Even my husband's gotten used to the raw. Peanut butter. You can get low sodium peanut butter. You're right. Okay, what else? Any other salt things you love?
Ramen.
And what?
Ramen.
Ramen. Oh, yeah. Okay, so we should just throw away that whole packet. There's nothing good in that little packet. Yes, ramen. That's a very good example. So excellent. I might even have that example here today. Okay. So let's see. Okay, so here's a study that kind of goes along with our topic today. It's a few years old. It was published in the European Heart Journal. When we look at studies, sometimes they can be misleading, and some things we want to look at to make sure that they really are a good study, I guess, is how many people they looked at. If they looked at 10 people, that could have just been a fluke. So this one looked at over 500,000 people. And so in this study, people answered questionnaires on diet and lifestyle, which kind of is a red flag too when we are looking at studies, because when people just answer questionnaires on their diet, they usually round up how many fruits and vegetables they're eating. They round down the bad stuff. So we have to take it with a grain of salt, so to speak. But they follow these people for 9 years. 18,000 people died early, less than 75 years old. And what they found in this was risk of early death, which to them was less than 75 years old, was 28% higher in those who use salt at the table always. So they marked, I always shake salt at the table. Now we're going to find out that just shaking salt at the table is like small potatoes compared to other ways we can get a lot of salt. But the same finding was even when they took into account how much people weighed, how much they exercised, if they had diabetes, if they smoke, all these other things that might have contributed to dying early. So when they took all those out, they still found out that salt, shaking it at the table, always was an issue. The males lost 2 years of life expectancy at age 50. Women lost 1.5 years. It didn't show why, but they assumed that there was a higher risk of stroke and heart attack with the higher sodium diet, probably mainly because of higher blood pressure. Those with the highest fruit and vegetable intake didn't have the negative impact, which is interesting because I'm going to talk about a study today called the DASH study, Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension, a huge study in the 90s. And in that study, it was what they would call a landmark study because we changed guidelines based on what they found in that study. And they found that eating more fruits and vegetables, which had potassium in them, blunted the effect of too much salt. So that could be why they didn't have a negative impact with the fruits and vegetables. When DASH came out, the big slogan was 5 a day. Eat 5 fruits and vegetables a day. You probably remember it. You remember the ads. After this, it was more like eat 8 to 10 servings. So Yet, if you didn't have enough reasons to not eat too much salt, there you go. Okay, so why do we care so much about our blood pressure? Because water follows salt. So when we eat a lot of salt, our blood volume increases and our heart has to work a little bit harder. So high blood pressure is associated with worsening heart failure. And I realized when I came back and kind of updated my slides, the last time I did this, I think we were focused a lot more on heart failure. So that was the number one thing. It really worsens our heart failure, increases risk of Alzheimer's and stroke and heart disease and kidney disease and poor eye health, probably because of higher blood pressure and earlier death. So let's see if I can show this.
If you have a lot of information in the poor eye health, is it because of the vessels going through the retina?
I think it's because when you have high blood pressure, it damages the little blood vessels in your eye. When you go to the eye doctor, a lot of times I've switched insurance. My last eye doctor would just spend a long time with me, showing me all the little blood vessels in my eye and saying, you know, it's because of your high blood pressure or because of diabetes. So it's not necessarily just going to your retina. It's all the blood vessels in your eye. This is just a little video clip about blood pressure from Dr. Greger. We hope. Maybe. This? Okay, thank you. Nutritionfacts.org.
For the first 90% of our evolution, we ate diets containing less than a quarter teaspoon of salt a day. Because for the first 90% of our evolution, we ate mostly plants. We went millions of years without salt shakers, and so our bodies evolved into salt-conserving machines, which served us well until we discovered salt could be
I love the captions.
They distract us.
It's hard for me to go to movies nowadays because they don't have the words down at the bottom.
foods. Without refrigeration, this is a big boon to human civilization. Of course, this may have led to a general rise in blood pressure, but who cares if the alternative is starving to death because all your food rotted away? But where does that leave us now, when we no longer have to live off pickles and jerky? We are genetically programmed to eat 10 times less salt than we do now. Even many low-salt diets can be considered high-salt diets. That's why it's critical to understand what the concept of normal is when it comes to salt. Having a normal salt intake can lead to a normal blood pressure, which can help us die from all the normal causes, like heart attacks and strokes. Doctors used to be taught that a normal systolic blood pressure is approximately 100 plus H. Systolic blood pressure means the top number. And indeed, that's about what we're born with. Babies start out with a blood pressure around like 95 over 60. But then as we age, that 95 can go to 120 by our 20s, then 140 by our 40s, the official cutoff for high blood pressure, and keep climbing as we age. That was considered normal, since everyone's blood pressure creeps up as we get older, and if that's normal, then heart attacks and strokes are normal too, since risk starts rising once we start getting above the 100 we had as a baby. But if blood pressures over 100 are associated with disease, maybe they should be considered abnormal, perhaps caused by our abnormally high salt intake, 10 times more than what our bodies were designed to handle. Maybe if we just ate a natural amount of salt, our blood pressures naturally would not go up with age, and we'd be protected. Of course, to test that theory, you'd have to find a population in modern times that doesn't use salt or eat processed food or go out to eat. For that, you'd have to go deep into the Amazon rainforest. Meet the Yanomamo people, a no-salt culture, lowest salt intake ever reported, which is to say normal for our species salt intake. And so what happens to their blood pressure? They start out with a blood pressure of about 100 over 60 and end up with a blood pressure of about 100 over 60. Though theirs is described as a salt-deficient diet, that's like saying they have a diet deficient in Twinkies. They're the ones, it seems, eating normal salt intakes, apparently leading to truly normal blood pressures. Those in their 50s having the blood pressure of a 20-year-old. The percentage of the population tested that had high blood pressure? 0. whereas elsewhere in Brazil, up to 38% of the population may be affected. The Yanomamos probably represent the ultimate human example of the importance of salt on blood pressure. But look, it could have been other factors. They didn't drink alcohol, ate a high-fiber plant-based diet, lots of exercise, no obesity. There's a number of plant-based populations eating little salt that experience no rise in blood pressure as they age, so how do we know what exactly is to blame? I mean, ideally, we do an interventional trial. I mean, imagine if you took people literally dying from out-of-control high blood pressure, so-called malignant hypertension, where you go blind from bleeding into your eyes, your kidneys shut down, your heart fails, and then you withhold from those people blood pressure medication, so their fate is certain death, and then you put them on a Yanomamo level of salt intake, a normal for human species salt intake. And if instead of dying they walked away cured of their hypertension, that would pretty much seal the deal. Enter Dr. Walter Kempner and his rice and fruit diet. Patients coming in with blood pressures of 210/140, dropping down to 80/60. Now, the reason he could ethically withhold all modern blood pressure medications and treat with diet alone? The drugs hadn't been invented yet. This was back in the 1940s. Now, the diet wasn't just extremely low salt, but strictly plant-based, extremely low fat, protein, calories. But there's no doubt that Kempner's rice diet achieved remarkable results, and Kempner is now remembered as the person who demonstrated beyond any shadow of a doubt that high blood pressure can often be lowered with a low enough salt diet. 40 years ago, it was acknowledged that the evidence is very good, if not conclusive, that a low enough reduction of salt in the diet would result in the prevention of essential hypertension, that rising of blood pressure as we age, and its disappearance is a major public health problem. It looks like we knew how to stop this 4 decades ago. In that time, how many people have died? Today, high blood pressure may wipe out 400,000 Americans every year, 1,000 unnecessary deaths every day.
Hey, I feel like my blood pressure went up just watching that. Thank you. Okay. All right. What would I do without our IT team? Okay, so how much sodium should we be having? So I'm using salt and sodium as the same word, but really they're not. Salt, table salt, is sodium chloride. Sodium always hooks to something else. So the table salt that we eat is called sodium chloride. So how much sodium should we have a day? So the upper limit is 2,300 milligrams a day. So as John pointed out to me earlier, nobody measures in milligrams. So what does that mean in real life? That means about a teaspoon, just a little less than a teaspoon of salt a day. And that's for people 50 years and younger. Us older folk need to go 1,500 milligrams a day, which is like 2/3-ish of a teaspoon. And you might say, I would never eat 2/3 of a teaspoon of salt. Do you think you would? Have you ever had a can of soup? Yeah. Or some soy sauce, or so many things that are just loaded. So, and this upper limit of 1,500 is for those of us 51 and older, but also for people with diabetes, hypertension, or high blood pressure, kidney disease, because kidneys affect your blood pressure, and then all African Americans too. So that's where we want to be aiming, is 1,500 a day or less. So if you think, gosh, that is not very much, or you pick up something and it's got a lot more than that, then think, what did I have the rest of the day? So you could divide it 500, 500, 500 for your meals. So if something's a little higher, might not be the end of the world if you're pairing it with a bunch of fruits and vegetables that are super low or sodium free. So I think you guys know this, Carrie and the gang are always doing your blood pressures. So normal is less than 120/80. And so as it starts to sneak up there, we call it stage 1 when it's 130 to 139/80 to 89. And it's officially like high blood pressure stage 2 when you're 140 or higher. So your top number is systolic, bottom number diastolic. Yes. Yeah.
Careful that you don't want like one meal, even if your other meals balance it out.
Okay.
Having
You know, that's a very good point. You're right. We don't want to just eat all 1,500 all at once.
Well, actually, the heart failure patients sometimes would do that,
Uh-huh.
and they were okay. They actually did okay if they truly made the rest of the day, like their breakfast was just like oatmeal, and their lunch was
Okay.
something. I mean,
And they were all
when
right.
they went out to dinner,
Yeah.
and they had really high sodium meal. They did fine.
Oh,
If
good.
If truly, if the rest of the day was good.
How was their weight, do you think? Like after that meal,
It was fine.
it didn't go up. Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
license.
What?
License.
I know that's true. A crisis is higher than 180 or higher than 120. That means go to the doctor right away. So generally the things for high blood pressure to help lower your blood pressure would be low sodium. That's usually our first thing. Moving. So, and I used to show a little slide of like what percentage your systolic would change if you like exercise for 30 minutes a day and things. So I just kind of did it a little more concisely here. Just get moving because that helps your blood pressure. Achieve a healthy weight or a healthier weight. If you're quite overweight or somebody who's quite overweight and they're not going to get down to what they weighed in high school, that's okay. Anything that gets a little less. Sometimes they say even just losing 10% of your body weight can have a tremendous impact if we keep that weight off. Moderate or no alcohol. Alcohol, sadly, has been shown to not really have a whole lot of health benefits, and it can affect your blood pressure. If you have trouble sleeping, we should check for sleep apnea. And that's because people who have sleep apnea tend to have high blood pressure. Don't smoke and manage your stress. So I think here in this program, we're always working on all these things, right? So I think you're in a good place for that. So here's some steps to reduce salt. I've got 6 steps. The first one is to eat whole real food from plants, not made in a plant. So shaking at the table isn't great, but we get much more salt from foods that are in a box or a can or a package. So eating whole real foods, unprocessed foods whenever possible. Get rid of the salt shockers. We'll talk about what a few of those are. Those are things that are just off the charts with salt. Read your labels. So everybody's got some labels. If you don't have one, share with somebody next to you or have somebody share with you. We can make substitutions. So maybe we, instead of having one thing that's high in salt, we have something that's lower in salt. You can modify your recipes. I know most every recipe says add salt. And if you don't, you're usually okay. Unless you're making bread with yeast. You need to have a little salt because the salt slows down the yeast. Yes.
Couple questions. So if you do canned beans and you rinse them off, does that help?
Thank you. It absolutely does help. I feel like we should start with low sodium beans or canned vegetable or whatever that can be. You rinse it for a minute, you lose about 40% of the sodium that's in it. So if you start with low sodium to begin with, that's really a good idea. Yes. My husband has that shirt. I knew that looked familiar.
I found that if you read the labels on beans,
Yes.
organic beans have less salt than the low sodium.
You're right. They often do.
If you just go for the low sodium can, you're still probably getting more than.
You might. That's a good idea. So to look, that's great. That's a good idea to look at the organic too. Okay. And you said a couple.
Is it sea salt? Is there another salt that instead of regular salt, is it any better?
There's sea salt, there's kosher salt, there's pink Himalayan salt. There's all kinds of different salts. They're still all salt. It's just they're a bigger molecule and a bigger kernel of salt. And so sometimes that tastes a little saltier to us on our tongue, but when it's the same amount of sodium when you get it in a,
So one's not better.
not necessarily. There is one kosher salt that is a little less. Diamond, I think it is. Diamond kosher salt, but it's still a lot.
Well, you add that at the end, you don't put it.
You add it at the end. You're
so
right.
it hits your tongue and you get that salt kick. If you
Hmm.
cook it in at the beginning, it makes no difference.
That's true. So it's better to add it at the end. And a lot of things like the chip, where'd the chip bag go? Who has the chip bag? Okay, thank you. So how much salt is in that? I know we haven't done label reading yet, but can you tell? Sodium? 190, okay. I would almost think that would be a little more, but they don't. They add it at the end so it touches your tongue, so it seems saltier, I think.
And that potato chip is baked, is that better than? the
Baked is better, yes, because it's not fried. You're right, but sodium wise, that probably does matter. But yeah, good choice. And eating at home more often, because we get so much salt when we eat out. And if you've looked it up before, it's shocking, just shocking how much you can get when you eat out. Even making your best choice. Okay, so let's think about whole foods. First thing was eat whole real foods. So how much salt's in fruit?
Generally zero.
Yeah, none.
The chef, your grandfather make you grapefruit,
Oh,
and then they sprinkle salt. on
that
top.
is true. So- or watermelon.
Or
So my
salt.
grandmother always put salt on her watermelon.
Yeah.
You were right. Fresh or frozen veggies? How much salt? Generally not. If you're getting frozen veggies, they add some to frozen peas, which I'm sure there's a really good reason for that I've never looked up. And celery, fresh celery has a little bit more salt in it. It's like 86 milligrams a stalk. But generally they're very low. What about intact whole grains? If you just ate barley or old-fashioned rolled oats or brown rice. Who has our brown rice box out there? Over there, Miss Linda? Did I read your name? Yeah, Linda. What is your, sorry, I know you're eating, but your minute rice? 0. Okay, so generally rice doesn't have any. You're right. But if you're getting rice-a-roni, which would have been a good thing to compare, that's going to be loaded. So eating food in its most natural form. Oh, I skipped dried beans. Yeah, what if you get a bag of pinto beans and then you cook them up? No salt. You're right. So eating whole real foods is very low. But sometimes when we talked about this over the last few months, the convenience foods, they're convenient for a reason. They can cost you more money and they usually add salt to preserve them or to taste better. But sometimes there's a place for them. There's a place for convenience food sometimes. So, but bear that in mind. So eating foods in its most natural form, almost no salt. That must be what those, what was the name? The Yamamotos or something? This India? It wasn't Yamamoto, but it was something. Yamamamo.
You know that peanut butter, you go to the back of the store, peanuts only. So there can't be any sugar or salt.
Exactly. I love that peanut butter. And it's cheaper than cheap.
I know.
Yes.
It's fun.
It is because you push a little button and it comes down. You're right. I know. Okay, here's some salt shockers. Soy sauce. 1 tablespoon of soy sauce is 1160 milligrams. So let's just think our goal is 1500. And so you go out for Chinese food. Do you think they put any salt in that dish that you're going to eat? And now we're going to sprinkle our soy sauce on it. Do we do that? Or is that just my family? We do. I know. We can also get reduced sodium or less sodium soy sauce. That's $5.75. So by law, it has to be at least half. So that's still pretty high though, right? Or we could get teriyaki sauce, which is just sweet soy sauce, $6.10. So what could we do instead of soy sauce in recipes, which is tough. I use soy sauce a lot. It goes in all those little Asian-y dressings I like. I get the low sodium, but I could use less. I could add wine, vinegar, citrus juice. This salad today, it did use a little bit of soy sauce, but then it also used citrus by orange juice and lime juice. How was that salad? Was it good? Really? Or are you just saying that? Okay. The reason I asked that is because when I was scooping up all the seasonings, and these are Moroccan seasonings, and I thought I grabbed, without my glasses, my half teaspoon, but no, I had grabbed my 3/4 teaspoon. So when I added all my seasoning to that liquid, it was really thick. So I had to thin it out a little bit. Okay, here's some more salt shockers. There's the ramen for you. Was that Kevin that said ramen? So we got our ramen noodles, $16.60.
That's with the pack.
That's with the packet. If you
Yeah.
just eat noodles, they're
Right.
fine. It's the packet. And here's our soup. I don't know about you, but I grew up on Campbell's tomato soup. So 1 cup is $9.60. I eat the whole can. So I need to double my numbers. Yes, ma'am. Oh, shout it out.
Flags.
Mm-hmm. They're right here. Would you mind reading to me how much? Oh, okay. So the Bragg's aminos, and there's also coconut aminos. Okay, coconut aminos. They have a great marketing that makes you feel like they're lower in sodium, but when you really do the math, they're not, because they use a different serving size. And so it's a little confusing. So this recipe today that I made called for the coconut aminos, which is just, they take that from the sap from the coconut tree. Yeah, that recipe right there. I didn't have any coconuts aminos, so I just used low sodium soy sauce instead. But those, so they can appear lower, but they're really not that much lower, if at all. It's just, well, when we compare labels, we'll think about that. So here's our tomato soup. Eat the whole can, you're almost at 2,000. Then you could get the healthy request. So that's only $8.10. Not a substantial difference for my 1 cup. I'm still going to eat the whole can. Or you try like Progresso vegetable soup. They have some lighter versions, 500. Again, I'm going to eat the whole can. So the best thing is to make your own. But when you make your own homemade soup, what do we often use? What?
Salt.
We use salt or vegetable broth, right? So we could get a no salt or a low salt vegetable broth as our base, or use water as our base and throw in a bunch of other seasonings to cover up that no salt flavor. What are some other shockers? Cured foods. So sauerkraut, $11.20 in a cup. Is that a normal sort of serving of sauerkraut? I don't love sauerkraut, so I don't even know how much people eat. You would need a cup? What would you normally eat?
Put a 1/4 cup on your Reuben.
On your Reuben, 1/4 cup, okay. So it's not very low. We got our dill pickle, $4.20. Yet if we just ate a cucumber, which turned ultimately into a pickle, we got 0. Or if we went with pickle relish, $4.60. And I think that's a dill pickle relish, not sweet pickle relish. So it's better to eat the fresh stuff. Just eat the cabbage, just eat the cucumbers. Although, do tell me, and if you know, that wild, like raw sauerkraut, what do they call that? You get it at Trader Joe's. I think Wild is the brand. It's like fresh sauerkraut. It might be a little lower. Does anyone know? No?
Quick pickle type thing,
Yeah,
could be.
it might be a little less. I don't know. A couple weeks ago when we did our red onions and we quick pickled them, I don't think we added salt to those. No, we didn't. Thank you. When I say we made it, Leanne made it. Sorry, I was taking credit for you, Leanne. Okay, what about boxing? Some of these are definitely not things I would recommend, but, and you might not be eating these things, and more power to you. But if you had a cup of that macaroni and cheese, you know, the blue box, 1,300 milligrams. That's what we're feeding our kids. If you got a box of vegan mac and cheese, it's 510. Cheese is loaded, just loaded with sodium. What about instant mashed potatoes? 900. You could just cook the whole potato yourself. Or what about instant flavored rice? That would be like rice-a-roni, or the kind that you add water to in the little soup cup. 800. So if we just did homemade of everything, we just cooked brown rice, we just cooked potatoes and mashed them up ourselves. Mac and cheese, we just had noodles, and if we made some cashew cheese to put on that, we could save some. Is there much salt in cashew cheese? A cashew cheese that we make? Cashew
No.
cream? No, there isn't, is there?
No.
So we could do that. Okay, here again, not things I'm encouraging you to eat. I'm just doing this for the sake of comparison. Boxed meats like ham, $6.70 for 2 ounces. You could go to the deli and get turkey. Oh no, this is still a box, sorry. Still a box, $6.20. Vegan lunch meat, like you're doing tofurkey, $300. Or if you're doing an Oscar Mayer hot dog, $4.20. But if you got a veggie dog, not better, $7.30. I think they got to do a lot to make that taste good. So the bottom line on all of these is limit your processed meats. Try to eat just plant meats, and try to eat just beans as opposed to the fake meats. The fake meats are loaded. So now we want to look at our labels. So everybody has a label or share a label with everybody. You want to look at it and kind of see where the salt is. Just a rule of thumb, we want to keep our meals less than 500 milligrams of sodium and our calories less than 500 calories per meal. So what's safe is if there's less sodium than calories. That's generally considered to be okay. So take a look at your labels. And at the top of the label, it will say what a serving size is. That's really the most important thing here on our label, because all the numbers are related to that serving size. If my soup says a cup, but I'm going to eat the whole can, and there's 2 servings in a can, I need to double all my numbers. So when you drop down, you'll see your calories, you'll see fats and cholesterol. We see those a lot too, but sodium. So you've got some labels out there. I came here, I told Linda that I didn't bring any labels from home because I thought, oh, I'll just grab some things here. Well, here everything was low sodium. So I'm super proud of all of you for all the healthy things. I found a few things with salt. Carrie helped me by digging into the fridge. So let's start with our highest one. Who's got the olives?
Sodium 170 mg.
Okay.
7%
Okay.
for 2.
2, count them, 2 olives, 170 milligrams. So that's a lot. That is a lot. So what he was reading was, it says how next to sodium, it'll say a number and milligrams. That's how we usually measure it. And then it'll say percent. The percent is the daily value. So they say that, and that's the number in the right-hand column. I find it to be not super healthy, but they say for the typical healthy American, you should get a certain number of all these items. So for sodium, if you look down at my bottom one here, for sodium, it says 2,400 milligrams. I think they might have changed that on the new label to 2,300 milligrams. So it says that if you ate this, if you ate those 2 olives, you just got 7% of all the sodium you should have all day. The thing is, we're not all the typical healthy American. We're aiming for 1,500. And so that percentage doesn't do us a whole lot of good. So thank you for that one. What else do we have? How much was in the Bragg's aminos? You definitely need your glasses to look at these things, I know. So it's 320 milligrams, and what's a serving size? 1 teaspoon. So generally for soy sauce, on your label, it will say per tablespoon. So, and it'll be over 1,000. So if we turn that into a tablespoon, it would be over 1,000 too. 3 teaspoons to a tablespoon. That's how they kind of make you think it's lower. I know, it's deceiving, isn't it? Okay, what else we have? Yes.
About, I have to be gluten-free soy sauce.
Yeah. The tamari.
How does that read? I don't.
It's very similar to the soy sauce, but you can get a low sodium tamari.
Okay.
You can get a low sodium. I actually did not, thinking, oh, I didn't even think about it. And then at home I looked, I thought it was like 980 per tablespoon.
Speaking of soy sauce, I kept thinking if it's working about soy sauce. I mean, that, also about why they put sodium frozen vegetables.
Well, I don't think I got that. Why?
I just didn't- No.
Oh, just this morning.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just didn't-
Well, do tell, paraphrase. Why do they put sodium in frozen vegetables? It's only been 40 years that I haven't looked that up.
preserve the structure.
To preserve the structure?
There was a bunch of things, but it said, it's, for flavor enhancement, preservation,
Yeah.
texture improvement,
Uh-huh.
the blanching process.
Okay.
And a little small amount, so. To help preserve color, flavor, and texture.
Ah, okay. All right. To help preserve color, flavor, texture. All right.
which in
Good,
peas
thank
is
you.
good.
Which in peas, yeah, you don't want your just little shriveled peas.
Spinach, you don't care.
Spinach, you're right. Okay, now you've got old fashioned rolled oats there. How much salt in that? 0. But if we were to get instant oats, they add a little salt to make it cook faster. Okay, what else we got? How's our tomatoes over here?
I have fire roasted tomatoes with green chili.
Okay,
And for half a cup, there would be. at- 190 milligrams
for half a cup.
per half. So you probably would use a half cup. a whole cup.
At least, or you use the whole can in your recipe.
It's
That
three,
would be the same as three.
Yeah,
which
so that adds up.
you're making a sauce.
You are making a sauce, so it's, you're not gonna eat the whole thing. You're right. Okay. Well, you got tomatoes too?
Mhm.
What are yours?
Our diced tomatoes, fire roasted organic. And it's 200 milligrams for a half a cup.
So that's less than this one.
It's
Interesting.
organic.
Ah, okay, interesting, because I thought this one, because of the green chilies, might not need as much salt.
But it's 190.
Oh, it is under, oh, I was thinking 290. Okay, so it is. All right, good. Okay. What else we have out there? Oh, how's panko?
Panko. For a third of a cup, it's 100 milligrams, 4%.
Okay,
But then this is just something you wouldn't really use a whole third of a cup.
would you not? I don't know. I can't think of my recipes that call for panko,
I don't know if that's,
but you're probably right. Yeah, you don't use that much.
well, because you supplement with pistachio.
Oh, well, of course you do. Okay. To make tempura shrimp that's on the front of that. Uh-huh, I see. Okay, how are those Cliff Bars? Now, I think that's an interesting point too. There's nothing salty about that bar. It's a chocolate chip bar or something, right? It's a chocolate bar. Yet it's got a decent amount of salt. Chocolate brownie, yes, okay. And that could be maybe because of what you've got over here. How's your baking soda?
In an eighth of a teaspoon, there's 180 milligrams.
That's substantial. How often do you use 1/8 of a teaspoon of baking soda? You use a teaspoon at least.
Right, but usually it's for a whole.
It's for a whole thing. It's for a whole brownie. You're right. Okay. That is true. What else we have? What's that crack stuff you have over there? It's crackling something. No, no, no. Right here. And yeah, you. What's your name? Nora. Okay, thank you, Nora, for you. Okay. So it's some topping kind of thing, right? From Trader Joe's? 150 for 1 tablespoon. So, and you're definitely going to eat all that probably because you're putting it on something. So we do have to take it all in stride. Some things, you're right. If you're not going to eat the whole thing, it's not as big a deal. If it's making a big recipe, it's not as big a deal. But I think we could try to decrease our salt whenever we can by buying low sodium. So I just have some substitutions. So far we've learned to read our labels. We learned to eat more just whole real food. And these are just some substitutions, not necessarily even food you eat, but look, a cup of Raisin Bran is 210. And that milk you put on it is 110. So you could do shredded wheat or oats, 0. Oat milk still about 100. You could do frozen waffles, 2 of them, 390. Again, they'll probably have baking soda and baking powder in them. I like to make these banana oat waffles. I don't even know where the 200 comes from. I do a little baking powder in mine, but about 200. I must have done the math on that sometime. What about a plant butter like Earth Balance, like a margarine kind of thing on a Noah's bagel, 560. That Noah's bagel is with the equivalent to 4 pieces of bread. So that's why it's so high. Bread has salt in it because we got to use salt to stop the yeast, slow down the yeast. So you get a Noah's bagel, it's a big thing, 4 pieces of bread. So you could maybe decrease that by using that natural peanut butter that you made at the at Winco and put it on a whole wheat English muffin. You've only at 270. Quaker instant oats, there we go, 290. That's where they add a little salt to it. Or old-fashioned rolled oats, you got 0. So we can just substitute or take a look at what you're eating and say, what could I swap a little bit? What about meals? So I'm going to have a veggie burger patty that I bought, about 310. And I would say that's even probably low. And I'm going to put a slice of veggie cheese on there, 220. And I'm going to have 2 pieces of bread, 260. And I'm going to have some Dijon, which hurts a lot, 345. Compared to regular mustard, which is much lower. And of course, I'm going to have a healthy cookie. I'm thinking this is from Subway, where you think everything must be healthy. And so even the cookie is healthy. So $13.85, I had almost my daily allotment. But maybe I could make at home my sandwich on a couple slices of Dave's Killer Bread, which are about 100 each. I could use avocado as my spread and some hummus. And then I could just pile it this high with veggies and I could have a piece of fruit as my healthy dessert. And I'm only at 310. So there's lots of different ways to modify. There's going to be time for that Subway sandwich. I know that's fine. But it's what we do most often that counts. And then condiments, they add up. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm a ketchup lover. And so sometimes I use more ketchup than I use anything on my veggie burger. So ketchup's 160. There's our Dijon 360. There's Vegenaise or a plant-based mayonnaise 230. There's my fat-free ranch 210. So we could substitute vinegar dressing. We could have avocado on our bread instead of a mayo. We could have yellow mustard instead of Dijon. We could have sliced tomato instead of ketchup. I mean, that doesn't go well with your fries, I know, but you dip your fry and your slice of tomato.
You're describing your go with malt vinegar.
Oh, malt vinegar.
Change your.
Okay, there you go. So last time we made some different mayonnaises. We made there was tofu mayonnaise or a cashew mayonnaise. And so Linda was asking me after, what's the calories and fat and all those? So I ventured into my Chat GPT and asked it, and here's what it told me. And so I threw sodium in since that's our topic today. Fat-free mayonnaise is low in calorie and low in fat and about 100 to 150 milligrams of sodium. Whereas last month we made the homemade tofu mayonnaise. It's a few more calories, but it's made from tofu, so it had some nutritional value. It had 4 to 6 grams of fat, hardly any saturated fat, and 50 to 150, depending on what you're using to flavor it. You could do homemade cashew mayonnaise, which was an option too, and which we gave a recipe for. That's a little more calories because we're using the cashews as our base, which are higher in fat. So it's a little more fat, a little tiny bit more saturated fat, but and 20 to 100 milligrams of sodium. Or we could just buy some plant-based mayonnaise too, store-bought veganese, same in calories, about the same in fat, about the same in saturated fat, but it and the other store-bought mayonnaise are about the equivalent in sodium. So in case,
There's also an egg white mayonnaise.
do tell me about that. Is it like from Best Foods or one of those? Oh, you do? Okay.
I live with somebody.
Okay, all right. I wonder how that is. Because by definition, mayonnaise is eggs and oil. So if you would get rid of the cholesterol. I don't know if you get rid of other things. Yeah, we'll need to look at that one. Okay, thank you for sharing that. So here you can make your own things. I mean, I know you don't always want to. I've been trying to always make my own salad dressing. I can make my own peanut sauce. I don't make my own ketchup. I should, but I don't. My mayonnaise, I make my own, and mustard, I just try to use yellow. But there's options. Here's snacks. Maybe you do some microwave popcorn. Oh my goodness, 8-10. That's a snack. That's not a meal. But you could do air popped and not put salt on it. You could do salted almonds. Here's our salted nuts. Or you could do raw. We could do a Fiber One Chewy Bar, 180, or we could just have an apple. We could have some pretzels, or we could mix our own kale chips for hardly anything. There's a cheese stick, or we could have some baby carrots. And I'm surprised that baby carrots even have 40. What about dessert? We could get some fat-free ice cream, dairy-free ice cream, not fat-free, dairy-free. Or we could have a juice bar. No sodium in that. We could have a sliced apple pie, or we could just have a baked apple that we made ourselves. But look at apple pie, $2.20. And it doesn't taste salty. I happened to go take my mom to Cheesecake Factory for her birthday recently. So a slice of Cheesecake Factory, just the original cheesecake, $4.70. Or you could have some fruit skewers. What's my little asterisk? Not to mention the 830 calories in that slice of cheesecake, 55 grams of fat and 30 grams of saturated fat. Out. And that's the original. That's not like the Oreo cheesecake or any of those. You could go get a Blizzard 500, which is shocking. That's got to be because it's made from a packaged food of Oreos. Or you can make your own oatmeal peanut butter bites at 50, which someone, Leanne, probably made. Thanks, those were yummy. So you can modify your recipes. So use fresh ingredients, use extra herbs and spices for flavor, because that you need those to make up for the no salt flavor. Because you know the no salt flavor. We all know it. And you need more. So you need to jazz it up with spices. Don't add salt in cooking or recipes, or just let people add it on their own. You can try other things to jazz things up. Lemon, lime, liquid smoke. Here's just a little chart. I got this from Plant Strong of like, if you were going to make your own seasonings. Sometimes I do make my own seasoning mixes, and I'll usually just Google Italian seasoning and then I'll just make it. So Italian and the different flavors that go with different things. And then there's Mrs. Dash. Anybody here use Mrs. Dash? She's still around, right? Okay.
I own the bottles, I don't use it.
You don't use it anymore?
You know, I got it after initially from the heart attack. But
Yeah.
I wasn't using it often, and a lot of the mixes are better if you cobble them up when you need them.
Exactly. You just kind of, if you make them up at the time you're going to use them, then they're just a little fresher. I like that Trader Joe's 21 seasoning salute or something, I think it's called. So you could eat at home. This would be the very best thing you could do. You could even probably shake salt at the table and eat at home, and you'd be better off than going out. So don't shake at the table, pack your own lunch and snacks, entertain at home instead of going out. Plan ahead. You know, we're big components or proponents of planning your meals, cooking in advance, batch cooking, freezing stuff, so that you always have something on hand, something that you made. So you're not as tempted to swing through Subway on your way home because you know I have this great thing at home. If you go to restaurants, anybody have trouble with low sodium at restaurants? Do you ever try? What happens?
What?
When you go to restaurants, do you say anything about the salt? Because I'm
Oh, I
bad
don't
at
say
it.
anything, but a lot of times I don't use a lot of salt. I can taste
Yeah,
some of the stuff I don't even want to eat.
you're right.
Like I go to Chipotle a lot and they have that sofritas.
The sofritas, those are
It's so
salty.
salty, I don't order it anymore. I just get the veg.
And my blood pressure is always up the next day after I have those. I've cut those out when I go there. I don't get them anymore because you're right, it's loaded. So if you're going out to a restaurant, you know, be assertive and look up the information before you go, if you can, the nutrition information, so you'll know, oh my gosh, when I go to Chipotle, I know that's like 1,500 milligrams of sodium when I get that. So I'm not going to get that. I'm going to get just the beans instead of the sofritas. Make your special requests. You have to ask it nicely. You don't want to be one of those kind of say, do this, do that. You want to be nice, and then they'll be nice to you. Think fresh, order a big salad, use the vinegar for the dressing, or pull your dressing that you made out of your purse or your man purse. Order fruit instead of the sides, like you go out for breakfast, have fruit instead of the potatoes. Order baked potatoes instead of rice. Why is that? How do they cook the rice in a restaurant? Generally, they add salt. They cook in a broth generally. So I just put a Subway veggie patty. You're trying to make the best choice you can at Subway. It's still $11.40. So this is that DASH study that I told you about. And it was generally a low fat. This was when I was just in school. It was lower in fat. It had a lot of potassium. It had lots of fruits and vegetables. It did have non-fat dairy or lower non-fat dairy. And people ate 2,300 milligrams or less of sodium. They locked them in a room and they fed them, which is the best kind of nutrition study, but also the most expensive. Then they did DASH 2 after they got these great results because they found that the DASH diet helped lower blood pressure. DASH 2, they lowered it to 1,500 milligrams of sodium, and lo and behold, better improvements in blood pressure. And these were the minerals that they picked out that were helpful with blood pressure: potassium, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts and seeds; magnesium, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts and seeds; and calcium. They use low fat or non-fat dairy, or you could do your fortified plant milks: broccoli, bok choy, soybeans, your dark green leafies I would add here too, are all good sources of calcium. So bottom line on blood pressure, we got to watch our sodium. We do. And if you have high blood pressure and you check it, you know that you can tell when you ate too much salt, or you can tell it in your ankles, right? Move, get plenty of sleep, check your blood pressure regularly. I know you do that while you're here. Maybe do it at home too. Get to a healthier weight if you need to. Work on your stress management, because that can jack up your blood pressure too. And I know it. I know it when I do that. And don't smoke. There's nothing any good about smoking. And then I have some little recipes here. If you just look on the slides, if you ever wanted to whip these up, but if I was you, I'd just Google them. Google like an Italian mix or a Mexican blend. And our recipe today was Moroccan flavors. So those are kind of unique in that they often use citrus. They often use raisins. It's supposed to be golden raisins, but I didn't have any. But their seasoning would be like cumin, and they often use saffron. So I use turmeric, which is poor man's saffron, and garlic powder, and a little cinnamon to that. And it was really quite an easy and inexpensive recipe, I would say. I could have shredded all my carrots on my own, but no, I bought bagged ones. And I hope that you guys liked it. And I think that's all I got. Oh, Milton Mills. He's a doctor who I think used to be in charge of the American Heart Association. None of us asked for fried chicken, pork chops, or ice cream in the delivery room, Well, maybe unless you're the mom. We were all born without preferences. So everything we think we like, we were taught to like. We weren't taught to like salt. We're taught to like, we were taught to like salt. We weren't born to like it. We learned to like it. And now that's the trouble when we try to go the other way. It just doesn't taste as good. So we got to get used to that. And in case you use a salt substitute, those are usually potassium chloride. And I don't enjoy using those. They do taste salty, but you never get used to the no salt flavor if you're always using those. So I'd rather see us use different spices and jazz things up. John is an expert at that. Everything he makes, he's really good at adding that stuff. Okay, so thank you. That's all. So no Twinkies, make your food at home. Okay, there we go. So thank you and happy June.
Is the Mind diet a subset of the DASH diet?
Yes, the Mind diet is the Mediterranean diet mixed with the DASH diet and created a diet. Those two things combined tend to help reduce risk of Alzheimer's. It's the most studied one that's been shown to help reduce risk.
That's
Of-
one for that.
Yeah. Mhm.
Just more berries.
Yeah, and they add a bunch of